各位喺節目開始之前呢，我就想另外分開錄製一個演詞，就係、我哋知道呢，就喺19號呢，就係、香港監察，就係、Hong Kong Watch。我諗佢正式譯名應該係監察啊，應該唔係觀察，不過我唔係好肯定。咁就搞咗一個我哋即係一個簽書會啦，同埋介紹香港即係關於香港嘅研討會啦。咁我就即係好榮幸地被邀出席喺個 panel 裏邊。咁就當然就係佢哋嘅負責人阿羅傑斯咧，就有本新書出咗，希望大家咧就係踴躍購買。咁當日都好多人買咗佢本書，同埋得到佢嘅簽名嘅。咁另外咧就係因為咁我又有一本新嘅呢個電子版嘅第2版嘅炎黃解毒，就係發行咧，正式係自己個人去出版啦。咁喺呢個亞馬遜嘅 Kindle 嗰度可以買到咯。咁同埋我嗰本金色圍城咧，都係講香港嘅歷史嘅。咁所以咧都同呢個主題係有關嘅。咁所以咧就係我哋一齊就即係我覺得好有建設性地同我嘅好朋友 Kelvin 啦，我哋3位啦，就係用英語即係討論咗所有關於香港嘅問題，同埋而家香港現時作為寫書嘅一啲作者，如果個題目敏感嘅話，點樣去對抗而家嗰個管制呢？咁就可以話呢，就係因為我準備咗一篇演詞嘅，咁就想呢，就喺呢度呢，就同大家分享下嘅。咁我就獨立咁去製作呢一篇用英語嚟即係創作嘅，同埋即係表達嘅一篇演詞。咁就等大家睇呢段片。Ladies and gentlemen, China Detoxed was the first book I have ever written and published, and it's not exaggerating to describe that experience as a small miracle and a sensational, almost too good to be true journey. It was 2016, and though just a bit more than 6 years ago, seems like ancient past. There was a time when Hong Kong was a do-all-you-can-do city. Political censorship was unknown, and freedom of speech was perceived unbound and expected to last in eternity. Like a well-known political figure from the neighbourhood of our city, rumours of his death have been greatly exaggerated, famously yelled to a Hong Kong journalist in not too embarrassing English with a hint of a Shanghai accent that Hong Kongers were ever too young, too simple, and sometimes naive. I admit that I am just one such typical compatriot of the city of Victoria, born and raised in the Crown Colony, proudly colonialist, and a royalist, never known to be reserved or hesitant to express my views. At the time, I had already been infuriated and dismayed by the CCP's new paramount leader, Chairman Xi. 2016. Chairman Xi's farcical attempt of a so-called rejuvenation of the great Chinese nation, which destroyed the last trace of decency of everything Chinese. Triggered by the 2014 Occupy Central movement, which evolved into the never off our mind umbrella revolution, I went deep into research of everything about the CCP and studied the origin of the evilness of that political entity and tried to find out the reason why it had to inflict so much pain to Hong Kong after the 1997 handover. I started with a clean slate without any presumptions or bias with regard to the CCP PRC narrative. As the whole world is fully aware, they are well known as self-proclaimed Chinese patriots and always dress up as favourite nationalists. So I began with the examination of how they fared in their treating of the Chinese nation. I let truth and facts speak for themselves. Like Edmund Burke once famously said, "To make us love our country ought to be lovely." We Hong Kongers, predominantly ethnic Chinese, though not all, found the modern Chinese state sitting north of the Shenzhen River not quite as lovely after 1997. After 1949, I'm sorry. So I went to the roots. I found out how the CCP was founded and how it subverted the true revolution led by the nationalists, or 国民党, the sincere disciples of Dr. Sun Yat-Sen, who were so infamously betrayed and had the power and authority usurped by the most cunning and crafty political maneuver in modern times. If there has been an existential risk of the modern Chinese nation, it was the war with Japan, which painfully preceded the World War II for 4 years of unspeakable atrocity, sufferings, and death in millions, when a young nation, the young Chinese nation, fought all along in destitute, but never yielded. The CCP, as facts on the ground so mercilessly demonstrated, stabbed their comrade in arms at the back while collaborating shamelessly with the Imperial Japanese invaders. Also, the 1949 conquer of the mainland was neither revolution nor liberation. Albeit an impressive military success with guileless Americans in critical assist, the CCP called everyone else traitors or hanjian, hongan, but they could be the only entity that really fits the descriptive. The book also dealt with how the imagery of modern Chinese nation was conceived and constructed, how the myth of the descendants of the dragon, 龍的傳人, 龍的傳人, was fabricated, and the symbolic meaning of the Great War, 長城, 長城, came to place. It went on from exposing the audacity of Mao conning his position as some philosopher king who developed Marxism to undressing the illiterate Xi Jinping. Well, the Pooh-Bear-nicknamed dictator is no cutie stuffed animal, more like an emperor with no clothes. So my attempt could have been unnecessary. Nonetheless, pitiful imitation of his master's hard act to follow in a jest of which no one is amused, and to the consternation of the liberal left, Marxism, which is very much in vogue in present times, was in my book definitively refuted in a single chapter. It was perhaps due to this plain-spoken and gloves-off approach the book was an instant bestseller in the 2016 Hong Kong Book Fair, and people lined up for my autograph before it was quickly out of print within 3 days. I must confess, as an almost totally unknown first-time writer who got published, I was not only mildly and pleasantly surprised, but elated rather tremendously. History should always be told on a solid foundation of truth and facts that are to furnish a preordained conclusion. Like a portrait of Oliver Cromwell, it is better warts and all, but is still written, inevitably, from a specific perspective. And my perspective is unapologetically that of a native son of pre-handover Hong Kong. We always feel a certain sense of superiority towards our not that dissimilar ethnically brethren in the mainland. Again, we can never emphasize more than enough that not all Hong Kongers or Hong Kongese are ethnic Chinese, but the majority, inclusive of yours truly, is ethnic Chinese or belong to the ethnic Chinese stock. Nevertheless, no one should be afraid of disclosing his true feelings or hide them in denial, no matter how unbecoming they might appear. Instead of dwelling on unnecessary guilt and self-hate, like the left for being white in the modern West, I went to search for the roots of such feelings, of feeling superior to these mainland Chinese, and tried to draw some meaningful lessons. I found my answer again in Dr. Sun Yat-Sen, and came back to him in the conclusive chapter of that book. Though not native, Sun was a true son of the British colony, living the better part of his youth in our city. After receiving an Anglican Christian schooling in his childhood in Hawaii, Sun furthered his education in the DBS and the Government Central School, which was the predecessor of the famous Queen's College in Hong Kong, both eminent stalwarts that went way back to the earliest colonial history, and was then enrolled in the newly founded Hong Kong College of Medicine for Chinese, the predecessor of the Faculty of Medicine of the Hong Kong University, which preceded the university itself for quite a few decades. Of course, we were well informed of the fact that Sun graduated top of his class. Well, the other less advertised fact was that the whole class consisted of just 2 students, and was well known for his bold character and outstanding intellect. Sun revisited the Hong Kong U, his alma mater, on the 20th of February in 1923, and developed a speech in English to the alumni and undergrads. In the commencement of his speech, Sun put down firmly that when asked, which happened rather frequently, apparently, where and how he got his modern revolutionary ideas, he always answered, according to that speech, unhesitatingly, that they were from Hong Kong. He went on to explain they were developed from puzzling that although the British trading port and his hometown of Heung San were only 50 miles apart, the differences impressed him so much that he began to wonder why it was that the foreigners have done such marvelous things with this barren rock in only 70 or 80 years, whilst China, with several thousand years of civilization, has not even one place like Hong Kong. And then he declared in no uncertain terms that when I called myself a revolutionist, people said all sorts of things about me. They misunderstood me. Well, I was not fighting for the extreme. I was fighting for a moderate government, for a good government. And that government was modeled after none other than the British government of Hong Kong in the good old Victorian era. As we all know, Sun and his teacher and mentor, Sir Kai Ho Kai, cherished Chinese culture, values, morality, and traditions. But they also understood that while not giving up any of the above, their fellow compatriots could only excel and find their security, prosperity, and dignity when they were on British soil. Inclusive, other than Hong Kong, the Strait settlements, Penang, in his day and age, and not much else. Well, the British Empire is long gone. Our British Hong Kong motherland that stood up for our freedom, provided for our prosperity, and gave us dignity can only be found in history books and museums. Sadly. But there's no need for sorrow, for now we are all united in the United Kingdom and are once again on British soil, where everything we cherished is still intact, alive and kicking. My brothers and sisters, we are not Hong Kongers in a diaspora. We are not in exile. We have found our roots and all four corners and are born again in Great Britain. Let us, together with our fellow citizens in Britain who claim ancestry from all corners of the world where the empire once stood, and of course, the sun never set, labor with all our hearts and souls in unison and contribute to our great nation's everlasting well-being and glory. God save the Queen and the King. Thank you. 咁啊，呢邊演詞呢，就即係喺好短時間裏邊寫出嚟，但係其實呢，就基於我呢個炎黃解讀嘅嗰個再版嘅後記呢，就再加以發揮嘅。但係每一句説話，如果講得唔好啊，大家同唔同意呢？都係我嘅發自內心嘅真心説話，唔係真正嘅感受。咁啊，今日要講嘅嘢呢，就係關於呢個，都係講翻呢個同香港有關。就我發覺咧，要光復香港呢，我哋首先呢，就要做一個反革命嘅復辟。即係我係睇思考拷問自己關於 Edmund Burke 所講嘅法國大革命嘅所有呢啲問題呢，而家我嗰個翻譯呢，就已經完成咗，即係差唔多一半啦。總共有407段啦，咁我就翻譯咗199段。而家我 Patreon 裏邊呢，就大家都可以睇到嘅。我暫時呢，就開放俾所有公眾，即係唔係淨係嗰啲 Patron， 即係喺 Patrons 啊。就喺個 Patreon 裏邊嘅 Patrons， 唔係正日我嘅 subscribers 喺呢個 Patreon 啊，呢個字咧佢作出嚟，所以個讀音咧就唔係 Patron， 就係 Patreon。咁咧即係我嘅 Patreons 之外咧，所有嘅公眾都可以睇到嘅。咁咧就暫時嚟講咧係對公眾開放。喺呢個睇呢個整個過程裏邊咧，我有最大嘅感觸咧。就係我哋差唔多2個世紀咧，有一種自以為不證自明，即係 self-evident， 就係所有革命咧都係好嘅，即係可能佢嗰個手段太過激烈，可能中間有一啲 collateral damage 啊，但係革命本身咧係好事嚟嘅。咁但係其實當你睇完呢個 Edmund Burke嘅 即係整個論述咯，可以話你就會發覺其實革命唔只係 neutral， 而且大部分情況咧都唔係一件好事嚟嘅。所以我哋200幾年犯咗個好大錯誤咧，就話喺選項裏邊咧要揀革命，即係如果得兩樣嘢揀咧，你反革命同革命咧就要選呢個革命。咁但係其實呢樣嘢咧係錯得好交關。咁其實喺歷史上唯一一次政治上嘅好重要嘅劃時代嘅分水嶺嘅革命咧，就係英國喺1688年嘅光榮革命。但呢啲光榮革命嘅當時嘅有識之士咧，根據 Burke 所分析咧，好清楚革命嘅目的咧就為咗避免跟住再有革命。咁所以由呢個托洛斯基去做毛澤東呢啲咁嘅永遠不斷繼續革命嘅論調咧，係非常之危險同埋非常之不道德嘅。咁而咧我哋睇到咧就係話，其實革命好簡單，就係用一個激烈嘅手段去摧毀一啲現存嘅建制。咁但係呢啲現存嘅建制喺被摧毀嘅過程裏邊咧，就一定會帶嚟好多破壞。如果一個暴力嘅流血嘅革命咧，係未見其利先見其害，係會帶嚟好多犧牲啦、好多破壞咧、好多死亡，同埋好多嘢。除咗人嘅生命嘅死亡之外咧，好多典章文物制度咧，呢啲嘢文化上啊傳統嘅價值咧，呢啲打爛咗咧就好難救得翻生嘅。我哋見到文革破四舊呢啲係真正嘅革命啊！我哋見到法國大革命咧，將所有以前嘅嘢連根拔起，甚至連嗰啲曆法都要改埋。所有同基督宗教有關嘅嘢咧，都係全部要剷除。但係其實佢唔成功嘅喎，因為過咗10幾年之後，嗰個基督教咧就整體咧喺法國復活，波旁王朝亦都喺法國復活，喺拿破崙即係打敗咗之後，係嘛？咁即係復活未必一定係好事嘅，因為你已經打爛咗再復活嗰啲嘢可能好醜陋。但係佢想剷除嗰個傳統嘅嗰個諗法咧，係唔會成功嘅喎。咁其實呢樣嘢咧，我喺未睇 Burke 之前咧，我已經係形成咗一種咁樣嘅分析同埋咁樣嘅結論。呢個就從我係睇呢個錢穆嘅思想咧，同埋余英時先生嘅一啲著作咧，係有好大嘅幫助。因為其實傳統價值係乜嘢咧？傳統價值係咪一定係垃圾咧？同埋我哋如果要刪除傳統，係咪會成功咧？係咪一定可以成功咧？即係余英時講得好好嘅，就係話你要刪除傳統咧，通常你係將傳統裏邊最有價值嗰啲嘢殺咗，但係剩翻落嚟最醜陋嘅嘢咧，就點刪除都刪除唔到。即係我哋睇魯迅嘅著作就知道，中國嘅傳統裏邊有啲好核突、好不堪入目同埋好邪惡嘅嘢。咁但係嗰啲嘢咧喺文革之後咧，其實全部都仍然生存。即係好似錢穆講喺大陸嘅歷史書咧，你只能夠揾呢個李自成、張獻忠同埋黃巢啦，或者《水滸傳》啦。除咗呢啲咁樣嘅粗暴嘅冇文化嘅殘忍嘅血腥嘅農民起義之外咧，所有嘅歷史嘅帝王將相才子佳人咧，全部都抌入垃圾堆，係咪？即係話傳統唔可以刪除，不過傳統裏邊嘅糟粕咧，就係剩翻落嚟嗰啲嘢，係咪？咁所以呢啲咁樣嘅行為咧，係真係一次又一次咁重複咧，對人類犯下好大嘅罪行。咁呢啲嘢咧，第一次我哋見到一個整體大規模 wholesale 咁樣做呢樣嘢咧，就係呢個法國大革命。所以革命本身咧係我哋一定要提防。咁但係而家我哋睇到咧就係話，而家好多香港嘅年輕人咧都喺度尋找摸索緊個道路。咁而家好興嘅一啲口號咧就係話香港獨立唯一出路，同埋而家好多左翼嘅知識界嘅論述咧就話中共係固然好衰啦，但係殖民主義都好邪惡嘅。 咁要建構翻冇咗中共、冇咗殖民主義嘅本身嘅香港人嘅身份。但冇咗殖民主義、冇咗英國嘅文化咧，呢個香港本身咧就變咗係一個空洞嘅嘢嚟㗎啦，係嘛？而且咧，如果你將英國建立香港或者維多利亞城，係英國從無到有，係平地而起，喺一塊禿石喺 Barren Rock 裏邊整咗呢嚿嘢出嚟，將呢一個咁樣嘅努力同埋中共喺香港嘅暴政咧，將兩樣嘢等同嘅話咧，我覺得真係一個好大嘅悲劇嚟嘅。咁但係我哋睇下，譬如話好似 Louisa Lim 啊嗰啲 Indelible City 裏邊咧就講緊呢啲嘢。佢唯一可以建構香港本土嘅嘢咧，除咗喺明朝嘅大嶼山裏邊一啲反抗政府嘅一啲其實同香港係九唔搭八嘅嘢，就係呢個曾灶財九龍皇帝咁樣嘅做法係好唔掂嘅，係咪啊？咁所以咧就係話我哋要光復香港咧，其實你唯一嘅出路，如果有一樣嘢叫唯一出路咧，就係咩咧？就係反革命復辟，香港歸翻英國嘅主權，然後我哋再建立翻我哋原本嘅維多利亞城，建立翻我哋原本嘅傳統價值同文化，包括我哋喺政治行政上翻去我哋本身冇俾中共干擾裏邊嘅，可以有呢個民選嘅地方政府、民選嘅市政局，同埋呢個立法行政同埋呢個司法嘅三權分立。我覺得咧呢啲咁嘅嘢咧，就譬如話我當時嘅香港，我哋國際上有獨立嘅地位，我哋有自己嘅貨幣、自己嘅財政自主，同埋我哋有所有一個主權國家所有嘅嘢。唯一欠缺咧就係我哋冇自己嘅國防。但係其實如果我哋真係可以進一步係貫徹到我哋歸英嘅話咧，將來嘅香港咧就同以前殖民地香港有啲分別。我哋一定要重建我哋香港嘅防衛軍，而且咧就將香港嘅防衛咧係擺成咧係英國本身嘅軍隊同埋香港嘅武裝力量共同防衛香港。即係話我除咗有自己嘅貨幣、自己嘅政府、自己嘅獨立嘅行政、自己嘅民選嘅地方政府，例如呢個市政局啊或者區議會呢啲咁樣全部民選，我哋仲要有咧自己嘅軍隊，無論幾細都好咧，係咪啊？都係要有，好似新加坡一樣。咁樣你企喺度咧就冇人敢恰你，係咪？但係同一個時間咧，我哋要重新加入呢個英聯邦，同埋我哋要將我哋嘅主權咧俾翻英國嘅君主，因為我哋只有喺英國君主嘅主權嘅嗰種嘅保護之下，香港先可以得到真正嘅自由。我上一個節目講過，其實一個良好嘅政府咧，一定要做到4樣嘢嘅。呢4樣嘢咧就係第一，佢係要做到啦，係能夠保障我哋嘅繁榮安定，即係要有效率嘅管治。第二咧，佢係要有一個司法嘅獨立。第三咧，佢係要保障我哋嘅我哋有呢個憲制之下嘅自由。同埋第四咧，我哋作為公民嚟講咧，應該有尊嚴地生活，係咪？呢一個咁樣嘅要求咧，就唔係太高。但係我哋嘅終極目標唔係民主，民主或者一啲民選嘅某一啲嘅政府機構，只不過係能夠保障上述嘅呢啲核心嘅價值同埋我哋呢個良政善治嘅基礎。但係我認為咧，上述嘅嘢其實最緊要都係自由同尊嚴。自由同尊嚴咧，喺冇呢種咁嘅憲制嘅框架之下，冇呢種英國式嘅文明咧，係好難揾到嘅。係咪？我哋見到好多類似嘅經驗，好多失敗嘅努力，係咪？整個歐洲大陸，甚至係一啲其他嘅發達國家，佢哋好努力做呢樣嘢。你睇下德國，你睇下法國，你睇下意大利，佢哋做唔到英國做嘅嘢。所以我哋得天獨厚咧， 係喺維多利亞時代最燦爛。當呢個大英帝國嘅國力去到高峰嘅時候呢，佢創造一個地方示範咗俾我哋睇，呢個就係我哋嘅香港，係咪？咁所以呢，其實呢樣嘢唔係痴人說夢。嗱，如果你話建國獨立呢，就虛無縹緲呢，係比呢個所謂歸英呢，佢更加虛無縹緲。但係而家隨時呢，正如戴耀廷所講呢，我希望佢啱啦。冇一個政權係永遠屹立不倒。如果中共風雨飄搖出現啲咩變化嘅話，既然英國朝野嘅共識就係1984年嘅中英聯合聲明呢，又已經俾中共踐踏違反到係已經係即係全部咧係已經俾佢撕爛咗。咁所以如果中共嘅力量一削弱嘅話，理所當然我哋可以做同埋應該做嘅嘢呢，就係還原翻1984年之前嘅香港，即係還原翻中英談判之前嘅香港。所以如果真係有唯一出路呢，香港歸英，然後我哋爭取自治，就係我哋香港人嘅唯一出路。咁所以呢，我哋而家喺英國，我哋要努力做嘅嘢呢，就要同所有嘅英國公民一齊去繼續堅持，係咪？即係用所有嘅方法令到英國重新強大。咁呢個呢，就係我今日嘅節目嘅時間，去到呢度呢，就差唔多啦。我哋下次節目時間再見啦，拜拜。